Ecuador is wrapping up the distribution of electoral material ahead of Sunday's runoff vote. The Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is in the front lines of emergency efforts following a severe volcano eruption. And an earthquake near Indonesia's Java Island leaves at least 7 dead. Hello and welcome to teleSUR. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez in Quito, Ecuador, and this is from the south. Ecuador is wrapping up the distribution of electoral material a day before the presidential runoff vote. Workers of Ecuador's National Electoral Council distribute ballot papers, voting boxes, and devices to scan and quickly register votes at polling stations here in the capital, Quito. According to electoral authorities, the distribution of voting materials across the country will be completed by the end of Saturday. La Soufrière volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines erupted twice on Friday, sending thousands of panicked locals fleeing to safety. This is the first time the volcano erupted since 1979. The initial blast from La Soufrière sent plumes of hot ash and smoke 6,000 meters into the air Friday morning, while a second, smaller eruption in the afternoon bleached out a 4,000-meter high ash cloud. Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves have already declared a disaster alert on Thursday when seismic activities suggested that the volcano will erupt soon. The island St. Vincent was later placed on red alert, which is the highest threat level. Thousands of people were evacuated from the affected areas, and according to the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago, the volcano is now likely to keep erupting for days or weeks. Antigua and Barbuda's government offered to house 250 evacuees from St. Vincent at the Jolly Beach Hotel. All the evacuees were tested for COVID-19 and were provided masks and other protective gear to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Antigua Barbuda is also prepared to ship supplies to help disaster management efforts in St. Vincent. 4 cruise ships were expected to reach the island of St. Vincent this Friday, 2 operated by Royal Caribbean and 2 from Carnival Cruise Line, to help ferry evacuees to nearby islands or shelters elsewhere in the country. Meanwhile, the 3rd Royal Caribbean ship is expected to arrive in the coming days. St. Lucia, Grenada, Barbados, and Antigua and Barbuda all volunteered to house evacuees. La Soufrière last erupted in 1979, and previous eruption in 1902 killed over 1,000 people. And Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves expressed his gratitude for the support and solidarity offered by neighboring nations like Venezuela, Jamaica, and Belize, among others, following the eruption.
People in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and in ordinary people, and in Grenada and in Dominica, St. Lucia, and Antigua, have responded to put people in their homes, strangers, bring tears to my eyes. I love this Caribbean.
Prime Minister Gonsalves also offered an update on the number of people evacuated and taking refuge in shelters.
I raised it with Michelle this morning. About 4,500 persons would have moved. Of course, persons would have moved. I'm talking about moving by the buses, the minibuses, and by the boats, and by private transportation. And you had roughly the number which was given to me by Michelle this morning. She hadn't gotten all the tallies yet. It was in the region of 2,000 persons inside of shelters. There were 20 shelters operational.
The Prime Minister also provided some details about where evacuees were housed during the emergency.
Some persons have gone into guest houses, hotels, and we want to see an expansion of that number. In fact, I've been in touch with with Michelle Forbes about this at NEMO and the Permanent Secretary in Tourism who is responsible for this, because I'm very concerned. I want to see the elderly persons, the persons who have health problems, people who are shut-ins. I want to see them being placed in the guest houses and in hotels. It will cost more money.
Gonsalves also called for calm as the process of evacuation continues, while noting the support of neighboring nations in housing evacuees.
But in all of this, I want everybody to cooperate. I don't want us to get frustrated. I don't want us to panic. I want us to be disciplined. I want us to be orderly. In respect of the persons to move regionally, I've been in touch with this morning the Prime Minister of Grenada, the Prime Minister of Antigua, the Prime Minister of Dominica. When I leave here, I have to go and talk to the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. I didn't get him the Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis. But in the case of Dominica, Grenada, and Antigua, they would be ready certainly by about Sunday, maybe Monday.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. As Peruvians prepare to head to the polls on Sunday to choose a new president and Congress, many continue to express doubts about the process and who to vote for. A total of 18 presidential candidates are running in the vote, with no clear favorite and polls indicating the possibility of a high level of blank ballots.
As a citizen, I certainly feel very unprotected because there is no accurate information about this election, which should be provided by the health and electoral authorities. The thing is that people will be in somewhat difficult situation as they vote, where maybe they didn't have time to evaluate the candidates who are in this general election. So I think that this will somehow shape the election because it will be a bit confusing.
Detentions of undocumented asylum seekers on the U.S. border with Mexico soared in March to over 172,000, the highest number in 15 years. As the United States continues to deport people trying to enter its territory, despite promises by the Biden administration to end the harsh immigration policies of Donald Trump.
They kicked us out as if, I don't want to say the word, but they kicked us out as it was nothing. They didn't test us in the United States for COVID-19. They didn't test us.
We don't have a safe distance between them. Many don't have face masks. Often, children are malnourished. These are the circumstances of where they have been in these times.
Venezuelan Ombudsman Alfredo Ruiz announced on Thursday the creation of a special commission to address human rights violations against the population of the town of La Victoria on the border with Colombia. According to Ruiz, the commission will include 2 sections specializing in human rights matters to continue carrying out proper investigations regarding the presence of armed Colombian groups in the border region. The commission will document the events and acts carried out by groups linked to drug trafficking, which aim to provoke conflict between the 2 neighboring countries. The Venezuelan government recently sent a letter to the United Nations requesting collaboration in order to establish communication mechanisms with the Colombian government, and also to support the efforts to remove anti-personnel mines placed in La Victoria by the Colombian armed groups. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has confirmed that the Cuban COVID-19 vaccine Abdala will be produced in Caracas. The state-owned pharmaceutical company Sprom Med Bio will produce the Cuban jab that Venezuela plans to use in its vaccination campaign as well. Abdala is in the final stage of phase 3 clinical trials and has so far proven to be safe and effective. On Thursday, the Vice President and Cuban Ambassador to Venezuela, Dagoberto Gomez, visited the lab to verify the required conditions for the production of the vaccine. According to Cuba's Health Minister José Ángel Portal, his country's two vaccine candidates currently in phase 3 trials, Abdala and Soberana 02, are safe, create a positive immune response, and side effects are rare and unusually mild. Authorities in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro have announced a partial easing of COVID-19 restrictions, claiming that conditions have improved despite growing number of deaths. The measure was issued with immediate effect, allowing restaurants, shops, bars, and beaches to reopen with reduced opening hours and strict sanitary protocols, such as mandatory use of masks. Rio Mayor Eduardo Paes said restrictions could be reimposed if infection rates increase again. In Chile, a tourism boom in the seaside resort of Valparaíso during the austral summer has led to an explosive increase in coronavirus infections.
We believe that this increase is directly related to several factors, but one of them is the holiday permit, which allowed a significant number of people to travel to districts in our region in a festive spirit of rest, relaxation, and disconnection after a very bad year. The atmosphere is palpable in hospitals that are collapsed, that are in total COVID mode. That means patients have to wait 4, 6, or 8 hours for medical attention in emergency rooms.
Chadian President Idriss Déby Itno closed his election campaign on Friday as the country prepares to head to the polls on Sunday, where he is running for a 6th term in office. Déby is widely expected to win in the first round, in part because 2 of the leading opposition candidates withdrew from the race as part of a boycott, while a third man, considered a top contender, chose not to run. The only remaining opposition candidate that has had the resources to campaign outside the capital of the country is Albert Pahini Padaque, a one-time ally of the president who served as prime minister from 2016 to 2018. Déby, a former armed commander-in-chief, first came to power in 1990 when his rebel forces overthrew the then president Hissène Habré, who was later convicted of human rights abuses at an international court. Presidential elections were held in the small African nation of Djibouti this Friday, where President Ismail Omar Guelleh is expected to secure a 5th term in office. Some 215,000 citizens were registered to vote, with polling stations opening early across the nation, which overlooks one of the world's busiest trade routes between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. Election observers say that the process ran smoothly, counting starting shortly after polling stations close around 7 p.m. If no candidate receives a majority of the vote, a second round will be held on April 23rd. President Ismail Omar Guelleh has ruled the country for the past 22 years.
The election has taken place in good conditions. Thank God it has been peaceful, and above all, thank God the people came out to participate. Now we will wait for the results. I have fulfilled my responsibility.
More news in a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back. Iran started its advanced uranium enrichment centrifuges as the country marks its National Nuclear Technology Day. President Hassan Rouhani inaugurated this technological project at the uranium enrichment plant in a ceremony. The move follows an opening round of talks in Vienna Tuesday with representatives of the remaining parties to the nuclear deal on bringing the United States back into it. All sides say the talks, in which Washington is not participating directly but has the European Union as an intermediary, had got off to a good start. Iran has demanded that the United States first lift all sanctions imposed by Trump, which included a unilateral ban on its oil exports, before it falls back in line with obligations it suspended.
I ask you, Mr. President, to simultaneously authorize the mass production and gas supply of the complete chain of 164 IR6 centrifuge machines of 10 SWU separation work until each of the gas supply of the first phase of 30 machines of the Chahed chain of IR5 centrifuge, as well as the gas supply of the first phase of 30 machines of the Chahed chain of IR6S centrifuges.
Still in Iran, the government has enforced a 10-day lockdown as a fourth wave of the coronavirus is spreading across the country. Authorities ordered the closure of all parks, restaurants, beauty salons, malls, and bookstores in 257 cities. Over 85% of the country is in designated red or orange zone with the toughest restrictions in place. The country is grappling with a spike following the Persian New Year, the nation's biggest holiday, which drove millions to travel to the Caspian coast and other popular vacation spots, pack markets, and congregate in homes for parties in defiance of government health guidelines. Iranian officials say that the deadly death toll from COVID-19 rose by 155, putting the country's total to over 64,000 as on Friday. The Tunisian president has visited Egypt's capital, Cairo, to meet his counterpart President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi for talks on the Libyan conflict. Following the meeting, President el-Sisi said Egypt and Tunisia are going to provide all the support necessary for Libya to hold general elections in December. The two leaders also discussed about the massive dam that Ethiopia is building on the Nile River's main tributary. The Tunisian president has promised to back Egypt's position on the dam construction dispute.
We also discussed, me and my brother, Kais Saed, the developments of the Libyan crisis, and we confirmed that an Arab role must be activated towards this crisis. And we welcome what was recently reached, forming the executive authority in Libya. And we also confirmed that we ensure to provide all kinds of support to enable them their role during the transitional period to hold the election in December this year.
At least 7 people have been killed after an earthquake hit Indonesia's Java island. The 6.0 magnitude quake struck offshore about 45 kilometers southwest of Malang City in East Java, damaging hundreds of homes, schools, and government offices. Residents of surrounding communities have been evacuated to safety. Indonesia has been experiencing frequent quakes and volcanic eruptions due to its position on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of intensive seismic activity. In 2004, Indonesia experienced one of its deadliest earthquakes and tsunamis off the coast of Sumatra, leaving 220,000 dead to the region.
We were very shocked. The whole house was shaking. I was sitting and it felt like I was thrown up from the chair. I was running away, but then I remembered my elder relative, so I got back and dragged her out of the house in anticipation of aftershocks.
One of India's largest cities, Mumbai, has gone into a new lockdown as the country faces a surge in COVID-19 cases and shortages of vaccines, drugs, and hospital beds. Restaurants have been ordered to close and public gatherings were banned in Maharashtra state and its capital Mumbai to slow the spread of COVID-19. India has been experiencing a new wave of coronavirus infections and has recorded 1 million new cases in the past week. As a result, the country has also suspended exporting vaccines to give priority for its own population.
There should be both lockdown as well as people being able to run their businesses. The rickshaw drivers are in a really bad shape as there is no business. They have no option but to sit at the street corners, chatting with each other. What else can they do? We have to at least be able to earn a little to meet our daily expenses. The lockdown should be implemented in such a way that the common man is not affected economically. People have children and families. They should be able to at least feed them.
Thousands of protesters in Serbia have rallied in the capital Belgrade to demand better protection of the environment. Thousands of people gathered outside the Serbian parliament building for the so-called ecological uprising against what organizers said is a widespread environmental devastation. Protesters carry banners reading "Cut corruption and crime, not forests," or water is life, and plant a tree, referring to shrinking green areas in the cities, particularly in Belgrade, where huge concrete residential areas have expanded in recent years. Serbia, which aspires to join the European Union, has faced several problems that includes poor garbage management and high air pollution caused by the use of poor quality coal and other pollutants.
We gather here to protect our rivers. I'm not from Belgrade. I come from Vojvodina, and I came here to raise awareness about ecology.
Hundreds of protesters in Australia have marched through Sydney as part of a national day of action calling for an end to Indigenous citizens' deaths in custody. Relatives of Indigenous Australians who have died in custody spoke at the rally, including Kayat Paten, whose uncle Eddie Murray was found hanging in his cell 40 years ago, and Nico Chaftil, whose son Tanet died in a hospital after he was found unconscious in a cell at a correctional facility in 2017. The protests come ahead of the 30th anniversary of a report by the Royal Commission into Aboriginal Deaths in Custody, handed down a report, few of whose recommendations have since been instituted.
It's an action day today. We've had enough conversation with these dug-eyes. Time for action now. Time to go walkabout, time to start educating our kids, time to start rising up, starting to take our land back, taking authority back, taking our communities back, taking our kids back, bringing them home, making sure that they're safe.
Today is 30 years into the Royal Commission and they still have not got their justice. This year marks 40 years since my uncle and his life has been taken from him, and we still have not seen our justice. So we will continue to get up here and tell our story over and over and over again until you get sick of us, because you know what? We're not going nowhere!
Japan's government has approved new coronavirus restrictions for the capital Tokyo and other areas weeks after lifting a state of emergency. The new measures are less severe than the lockdowns seen in other countries, and many call for restaurants and bars to close at 8 p.m. with the threat of fines for those that do not. These restrictions have already been enforced in various hotspots, including Osaka, where roundbound in cases has forced the Olympic torch relay off public roads. The pandemic-delayed 2020 Games are due to open on July 23rd in Tokyo, but a surge in cases in part of the country is sparking new concerns. The new measures will be placed from Monday until May 11th in the capital and until May 5th in the regions of Kyoto and Okinawa.
We came to the decision because of an increase in the number of new infections and the fear that the medical facilities will come under pressure in these areas.
Condolences from around the world have been pouring in following the death of Prince Philip, the husband of British monarch Queen Elizabeth. Cannon and gun salutes have been performed in cities across the UK, including London, Edinburgh and Cardiff, as well as British overseas territories such as Gibraltar. At sea, warships of the British Royal Navy also shot their cannons to mark the passing of Prince Philip, who died at the age of 99 on Friday. It is not yet known whether there will be a public funeral or just a small family gathering amid the pandemic. And we come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories in our website at telesurenglish.net. And don't forget to join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.